So I'm going to look at, I'm going to ask you to start your brain juices going with this, because this is quite reasonably new Internet of Things, although the term was coined a while back. But I want you to start thinking about your business and how you can change your business, really. And the Internet of Things is a real enabler to allow you to do that. So if we just jump in. So it was a British, and I'm British, very proud of this, entrepreneur that coined the Internet of Things back in 1999. So it's been around for quite a while as a term, Internet of Things. And I did a little Google on the definition of Internet of Things, and I was going to go with Wikipedia, but I actually liked this, the IEEE definition, and I just highlighted some words. So when you're thinking about the Internet of Things and what it means to you and your business, what you have to remember is that it's a complex network, right, that interconnects things to the internet. So something has to be connected, right, and it uses standard communication protocols. Okay, so it's a thing that's connected using a standard protocol. And these things have a physical or a virtual representation, okay, which is uniquely identifiable. So you're getting into the world of the internet and your IP address and all this kind of stuff, you know. And that representation contains information, and based on that information, you can start to offer services around these things, because you've got access to these things and you can start using that information. And these services can be exploited using intelligent interfaces, etc., etc. But the one thing that we all have to really remember is it has to be secure. Okay, so if you think you've got all these devices on a standard network, everything that people can get access to, security is really key. So when you go out and you think about how you leverage the Internet of Things, security has to be foremost in your mind. So that's just a little tag, and I won't probably mention that again. So moving on, what does it mean? So we're on this like mad explosion of within computing history, you know, that's taken us from, you know, IBM used to make bacon slicers back in the day. So bacon slicers, typewriters, you know, mainframe computers. And now we're into this situation where my watch is no longer just a watch, you know, it can be my boarding pass to get onto the aeroplane or whatever it needs to be. So there's this mad explosion. And depending on which analyst you read, it's down the line, it's going to be 100 billion devices that are connected, but it's kind of today we're looking at around 9 to 10 billion devices are already connected to each other. So again, it's got to be safe. You know, pre-2005, you had your server, everything went into the server, everybody was happy, it was normally on-premise, we were doing a lot of really great stuff. Then we got to the open access and the networking phase and the cloud, but still really it's just a server and a database in a data center, and everybody's on the cloud and doing really great stuff. 2025, we're going to be looking at devices talking to each other by themselves, okay? It's a little bit of you know, what does that really mean? But really, that's where it's going, you know. You walk in and your watch will tell you that the fridge, you've got no milk, and, you know, you haven't even asked for that information, but you'll be passed and pushed and pulled all this information. And, you know, we don't know what it means for the cloud and data centers, etc., but that's the projection, and it is out, and it is just a projection. So back, I don't know when it was, with the smart cities, smart everything explosion within IBM, we had this mantra, interconnected, instrumented, interconnected and intelligent. And this is a brilliant segue into the Internet of Things. So in terms of every object is becoming instrumented source of data. Okay, so today you've over 9 million devices. In the future, it's going to be hundreds of billions of devices that are going to be connected to, instrumented to enable connection. And then the interconnected piece is getting these devices communicating to each other, to people, to each other, you know, machine to machine, people to machine, etc. And that, as Niall is delighted about, is generating a massive amount of data, okay, that's there to be used. And this is where you need to start switching on, look at your business and say, what am I missing here? What information, what data am I not picking up on? What can I leverage? And that data, as you've seen in John's presentation, provides insights. It may be stuff that you thought was going on, but to prove that to an executive is quite difficult. You need that graph, you need to be able to articulate it very well, show the business value of it, etc. And this is what this new data sources are giving. And also beyond that, there's this social interaction as well. I mean, IBM has a partnership with Twitter, and there was a frightening statistic behind each 140 character tweet. There's about 14 lines of code that tells so much about your personal digital footprint, okay? But, this is, where can you look for to get extra and additional information to qualify and quantify and make better the data that you have? And then intelligence, as, John has just said, what do you do with that? What have I learned? Because if you just do the analysis, if you collect the data and do the analysis and go, wow, look at that nice graph, and don't do anything, everybody's just a little bit more clever than they were yesterday. Nothing changes. So you really have to do something. And this is the intelligence piece. So using, equipment and software and information systems that are available to you, make those changes. What did you learn? How can you improve? Why did it happen? What action should I take? What is happening? What could happen down the line based on this information that I have today? You have to do something. So with more and more of these world's activity being expressed digitally, we've got to start to learn about it and create this new value, right? Because it is happening today. And I'll show a little bit about, manufacturers of things are looking at this, how they interact with end users. So how do you get value out of it? How do you create new value? So we all know about the Internet of Things based on consumer devices. So that's really, really well received in the media. People love it. Apple Watch, iPhone, Google Glass, Google Cardboard, all this stuff that people can get access to. It's wowing and it's great and it's visually brilliant. But the actual real transformation is occurring in manufacturing. So the people that are manufacturing the things that are instrumented with sensors and other actuators, they're the people that are really making the changes here. They're looking beyond their traditional Tesco of this world. Sell a refrigeration cabinet to Tesco, happy days, see you when that breaks down and we'll sell you a new one. It's going beyond that. How is that piece of equipment used, etc. And that's where the real transformation is coming. So, are people ready today? This IDC study says, yes, they are. 61% of organizations are looking and pursuing Internet of Things initiatives. So if you're not looking at this yet, maybe take a little look, dip your toe in the water and see what it means for you. At least do a little bit of research to find out what is going on, because there's a ton of stuff out there. And if anybody wants any of these links, let me know. If you don't get these presentations, I'll send them on to you. So what does it mean? How is this a transformative business opportunity? Well, first of all, unlock new revenue from existing products and services. So if you're offering a service and a product today, how can you sweat that service or that asset and generate more revenue from it? And then two, how can you inspire new working practices or processes? Think if John, had been able to engage the manufacturer of the refrigeration units, and then they could have taken that learning back in-house and said, okay, well, maybe we need to position sensors in a different place or drainage elements in a different area. And then thirdly, creating or changing the business models or strategies of your company or your clients' companies. It's 3 areas to look at within your business. And how this is being enabled is that 3 technologies are converging and accelerating this. So it's about data, which is what we're here about today, really, unlocking data from these connected devices, cloud and standardizing base connectivity from anywhere, and then engaging new and different people, be it end users, be it consumers, be it random people on the street. It's engagement of new and different areas of your ecosystem. So this is an interesting statistic, and this is a piece of IBM work as well. So harnessing the power, 90% of the volume of data created at the edge of IoT is never captured, analysed or acted upon, right? So that's 90%, that's massive. And then this is startling, that 60% of that data loses its value within a millisecond of being generated. So if, there may be something fantastic in there, that you're missing a trick on that could, earn you your next million. But it's, just having to think about where you can get access to this information, capture this information, analyse it and get the value from it. So within the IoT industry, there's four fundamental areas. So down at the bottom, there's the device and the networks. Okay, so connect to the devices into platforms, the hardware, the networking, the operating systems, etc. IBM doesn't really play in that space. Okay, we don't do devices, we don't do hardware, we don't do networks. Go up a layer into the platform and build and manage IoT solutions. That is exactly where IBM is playing. Okay, providing these platforms, providing a place to play with your data, to analyze your data, to act on your data. And then obviously the applications and solutions that enable you to act on that data is exactly where we're playing. And then helping industry's transformation, and evolving new business models. There'll be some parts of IBM that have strength in there, but our ecosystem would definitely have a very strong play in that area. So 4 areas of transformation, 4 fundamental areas to assist transformation. So IBM's mission, because what I've spoken about up to this point is pretty generic, right, for the whole Internet of Things industry. So IBM's mission here is to help upstream innovators engineer the next generation of connected devices that help downstream operators deliver new business outcomes and better innovation and operation and customer engagement. So we'll talk about that now a little bit. So upstream, these are the makers of things, and we're having a lot of conversations with people who make things. So aeroplane manufacturers, car manufacturers, and they're really looking at different ways of generating revenue from the things that they make via the Internet of Things. So it's around when you've made that sale, when you've sold a refrigeration cabinet to a large supermarket chain, you don't disengage, that you keep contact with that device, with that thing that you've made, and you start to stream information from that thing, big data, and run your analytics to better increase the performance. So go back to your design thinking and your requirements for that fridge, and by virtue of understanding how it performs, how people connect with that piece of equipment, how often the door is open and closed, how that has an impact, feeding that back into the design of the product right at the very beginning. So it's not losing sight of your product once you leash it out into the wild. And then downstream, so there's a few maintenance people here. So downstream, how that product is serviced, how it operates, massive part to play in this. People who offer that as a service, to get engaged with the manufacturer of the thing, to really give them value, because you are the maintenance person, or you are the operator of this thing that they've produced. You can give them loads of insight, and help better deliver your service to your customer. So it's about the connection of the two, and IBM is very focused in these 2 areas. So again, just transforming the business, accelerating innovation, enhancing operations, and improving engagement. So that improving engagement is really key. Getting a sense, I don't know if anybody's ever used an airline lately and tweeted if it's been late. The airlines are back in a flash. Oh, sorry about that, or whatever. And somebody I know recently, loads of flights cancelled, and they actually started to communicate them out of the Twitter space in a private tweet, how are you getting on, book into a hotel. So it was instantaneous, just from a tweet. And Twitter is very, very valuable. So, if you've a supermarket chain and, everybody's complaining that it's freezing or it's dark, or I don't know what people complain about in supermarkets, but, you can, if it's into your Twitter account, you can act on that. And then maybe you can get your engineers out to take a look if it's something that's important enough to react in that way. So it's just, again, transforming your business, thinking about innovation, thinking about how you enhance your operations, and then engaging beyond your current ecosystem. So IBM, I am part of a business unit that was formed at the beginning of this year, and we're investing $3 billion in this space. It all doesn't come to me, unfortunately. We have to share it. So between design of products, research, and then out in the field, selling the Internet of Things vision that IBM has and the products and services, there's a lot of investment going in there. And a very key part of that is our ecosystem, or our external partners who work with us. Very, very key to the whole thing. So this is a chart I want to dwell on a little bit. So as I've been talking, I hope you've been thinking, how do I run my business today? What does the Internet of Things mean for me? And some pointers here, 6 pointers to help you think. So touch points, okay, where are you touching currently? Are you touching just direct, do you just have direct contact with an owner, or do you get contact with the user of a thing, or the service you're providing, the person who ultimately, benefits from your service? Do you have that connectivity, and how can you create that connectivity? And then predict and prevent, prevent failures and fix them in a timely manner, optimize in terms of, one of the reasons we're here today, around maintenance. How do you get that maintenance optimized? How do you go to condition-based maintenance instead of reactive maintenance, which we know is very expensive? One half the room may disagree with me, but really, if you're still thinking your business can thrive on reactive maintenance, I'd think again. Really seriously, and you've got to start looking at this condition-based maintenance and how you can engage. And then optimization, so future designs, as I was saying, how do you optimize the products and your service using design thinking or continuous engineering, depending if you're a service or a product deliverer. And then extending and interacting. How do you interact in new ways? I mean, I've mentioned Twitter quite a few times now, but beyond Twitter and other ways, how do you really interact with the wider ecosystem that you're touching? And then driving a value to the wider community or the wider ecosystem. So, other departments, companies, how can they benefit from the data that you have? So my example, about in Tesco, if they could have sold that data back to the refrigeration, or at least, developed a relationship where they can, have that value between the two and build a relationship, and then maybe get a better product that costs them less to run at the end of it. Maybe that's the win for Tesco. But how do you reach that wider ecosystem and drive value? And then really look at new usage models and business models. How can you generate new revenue? Sweat what you have to generate better new revenue that you can change the way that you work. Okay. And so some practical examples that we have, we're working with tyre manufacturers around this connected vehicles. I heard the other day actually that there's a fully functioning 3D printed connected car that you can drive away in today. I didn't go bother. But this is where it's going, in the medical device world as well. I mean, bespoke, I just go to the jawline, but printed jaws that fit you rather than one that comes out of a box that's a generic that they have to file down or whatever. But there's all this technology available, and then having a little sensor in there to understand how it's performing inside your mouth. Silverhook is one. It's a little bit like the Formula One, but they were able to very quickly build an app that got them all the telematics and biometric data from the guy driving the speedboat, the powerboat. But they could also give this if the audience wanted to see, the spectators wanted to see it, they could also feed this into the spectator's mobile phone, because I don't know why you'd go and watch it, because they zoom off into the sea and then you just see a little blip, but at least with this they could see what was going on and get a good sense of who was winning, who was losing, etc. And then Whirlpool, they're improving their performance and reliability of their appliances by doing exactly what I'm talking about, by not disconnecting when the sale is made, by keeping that relationship going with the end user of the product, getting information back about the product, and then designing better products going forward. So this is just one example. It's really, really busy, but really it's just this side really, around vehicle diagnostics. With this internet connected car, it's getting information about the car, feeding it back to the manufacturers, and then if you need to get a service engineer out, you can. But it's getting a real-time understanding on how that asset, that car, that thing is performing, and feeding it back either to the maintenance teams to do a recall, or to be prepared that this car is coming down, or to tell the owner, look, this car really needs to be serviced, you better bring it in, else X, Y, and Z is going to happen. But it's all about feeding back information from the thing to make a better design, and that's kind of the layout of the land on how you do that. And that's happening today. And that's where I wanted to end. If anybody has any questions, happy to answer them. Yes.
I really like your slide of the 60% of data has to be used within
a
very, very short period of time. And in many ways that undermines the expression that data is the new oil, because oil will keep, this has to be used very, very quickly, and it sort of plays into how do you use it, get that real-time analytics to deliver the value in that data within that very, very short period of time?
Yeah, so, Niall, I mean, it's like...
There is, and that was the slide when Claire showed me this originally, that was the slide that it just spoke out of me. I said, look, wow, means that data is becoming even more valuable in one context, and you're right about the oil thing. I hadn't made that connection because it is often talked about the new natural resource, but it's so fleeting. It adds a new dimension to it. And I guess my feedback commentary, and when we present out what we're doing in the analytics space and refrigeration, I don't think there's an immediate need for that right now within refrigeration, but certainly some industries absolutely will get most benefit from analysing that millisecond data. And I guess to the wider audience, I don't know what the actual answer is in terms of the ability. I know streaming is one. Streams is a particular capability that allows you to capture that data and to do online on-the-fly analytics, and that's recognised as as one direction and one way of doing that. But I guess it really is industry specific. But it is very insightful comment to realise that it's not just the capture of the data, but if you miss it, you've lost its value. So I think that's another important point to make.
Just one thing we're looking at from an energy infrastructure perspective is more machine-to-machine automation. So, previously you would have always had kind of human operators look at the data, do the analysis, and then they would have the time to make the interaction. But what we're seeing now is to capture that value, actually you just don't have that time. So we're starting to go down machine-to-machine automation to try and capture that value by reacting very quickly and based on the data that we're seeing. And I do, certainly on the energy infrastructure side of the world, I do expect that to continue quite quickly.
I guess you have to do a lot of work up front as well, because it's got to be valuable data. So there's no point having tons of information that's meaningless to you. So if you, as John says, machine to machine, if that's valuable information around a critical either asset or a critical process or security, you've got to capture that. And I would say that data is, rather than the new oil, the new natural resource, I would guess, to give it a shorter timeline. But yeah, I mean, it is, and just to back up Niall, if it's gone, it's gone. I mean, you've missed that opportunity to either save something or make a change. I think it's just about capturing it meaningfully.
Or capture it for now and see if you can do something with it later on. I think that's the general view of things, because once it's gone, it's gone.
Yeah.
So I think our mantra has been, okay, we don't know whether we need it right now, but at least we can go back in 6 months when we have more insight to be able to say, well, actually that data is useful. It's lucky that we did capture it. So I guess the kind of maturity model says, look, let's park it up, let's grab it for now, and if it's useful, it's useful. If not, then we're going to create a very big database of useless data, but at least it's there. But it's really an interesting challenge, I guess, for everybody, how you manage the data down the road.
So is everybody looking at Internet of Things in their business? Is it a topic that comes up with people? Yeah, a few nods. Yeah. Yeah.
Thank you very much for the presentation. I think data on its own means nothing unless you transfer it into something useful information.
Yeah.
And if you put it within the right context, it will give some good indication, whether now or in the future. Then you could do some correlation between past data or information present and can predict the future outcomes.
Yeah, and you'd be surprised. I know of a story where some entrepreneur had an app, and it was crowdsourcing. It was an app for, I can't even remember what it was for. It was for a UK city council, and the way they used the information from the app was that they were able to identify potholes in the road for the city council by the vibration of the phone. And it was crowdsourcing of data. And what that did was that every time when it vibrated over a certain point over enough time period, the council looked at who was supposed to be maintaining the road and who said they'd filled that hole. And they were able to say, go back and fill the hole. And that was just a completely different way to use data from an app that people just subscribed to because it was something like, I don't know, the city, fun app or something to do with restaurants or something like that. But they crowdsourced the data and were able to identify from a vibration that was written into the app where potholes were. So it's like just different applications of the same, information can work wonders.
Very good, Claire. Thank you very much
Thank
indeed.
you.